Hi, welcome to the part 11 of this video series. Here we are covering Azure DB300 administering relational database on Azure important exam questions. Like you have seen in my previous videos, these are all real exam questions or very much close to real exam, and the chances of getting these questions similar or exactly same is very high. That's why please focus on the concepts. If you know the concepts, clearing the exam would be a cakewalk. Even if you have not gone through other courses on Udemy or on any other education platform, if you go through these videos, this will give you a very good insight about how to tackle the questions, how to arrive at the right answers. Please subscribe to my channel and like my videos. If you have any positive or constructive comment, please drop in your comments. For any previous questions, you can refer to parts 1 to 9 of this video series. Now here the story goes this way: you have a database and you have to enable automatic tuning for that database, and that database is on Azure Virtual Machine. So this question is related to enabling the automatic tuning options. Whenever we talk about enabling tuning, one process is where you use this automatic tuning force last good plan equals on. Whichever is the last good plan, the current or previous plan, whatever is last good, it will use that plan. And another thing, that before that what we have to do is set the query store option. Okay, so these are the two answers. First, you have to set the query store option to on, and the operation you have to use is read and write both, because you will be doing both. Okay, just setting the read will not help. And the second option is you will have to put automatic tuning force last good plan on. This will ensure that your tuning is automatically on. Okay, there is no such option like automatic tuning equals auto. There is no such option. Okay, now we have this plan here. So what the question says is, you have a SQL server on VM. The database name is DB1. It's similar questions. You have a database here, and this is the plan and this time is in milliseconds of each execution query. This one, so you see this, probably they executed it twice, so they have two plan IDs, this and this, red and green. And here goes the question. It says, in order to ensure the query uses the execution plan which executes in the least amount of time. So the first option says force the query execution plan for plan 120. So there are two options here. You see these two. See, this will not help disabling parameter sniffing. The parameter sniffing is primarily used with stored procedures. Okay, if you want to pass on some parameters and then see what is the execution plan, then you do use parameter sniffing. Disabling the parameter sniffing is of no significance here. Whether you enable it or disable it, it doesn't matter, because here we are not referring to the stored procedure. We are referring to a execution plan of a query. This is the query. That's why D is ruled out. Then this option, dbcc frep proc cache command. So this will recompile the queries. So you have this query, it will recompile it again. So that is not the need. We want to know, we want to follow a path which will execute in the least amount of time. So B and D are ruled out. Now out of A and C, which one will work? Let's see the graph. In here, if you see red, these are the two red ones, and this is the green one. And if you see the green one, it takes less time compared in terms of milliseconds. It is taking less time, and this is taking slightly more time. So that's why green is better. So we will go with 1065 option. So this one, A, would suffice the purpose, because this will ensure that the execution is done in least amount of time. So this is our final answer. Now let's look at this question. In here we can see that the force plan is on and the create index is on, and both are inherited, and drop index is on, forced by user. So it is showing that this is already inherited, and drop index is not inherited, someone has made it on. Now let's look at these questions. So the non-cluster indexes will be added to tables to improve performance. Yes, since the create index is inherited, this is on current state, so the non-clustered indexes can be added to improve performance. So this should be yes. Second says columns will be added to existing indexes automatically. No, nothing gets added automatically. You need to add it. The user or the developer needs to add it, or the administrator needs to add it. Third says the query execution plan will revert to the previous plan if query performance degrades. Yes, this is right. This will happen because if force plan is inherited and create index is also inherited, it looks like everything is on. That means the auto tune is on. If auto tune is on, then the database itself will decide if the query execution plan will suffice or not. If there is a better execution plan, it will revert to the previous plan. So this is also yes. So these are the final answers: yes, no, and yes. So in this question, we see as usual there is a database on a virtual machine, and there is an agent job. So there is a database on a virtual machine, and then there is an agent job. What does this agent job do is it backs up the databases. Okay, and here it says you need to add a user named dbadmin as an agent operator. So this user is the agent operator, and you need to make sure that this user receives email alerts if the job fails. So if this agent job fails, suppose this person triggers the agent job or schedules the agent jobs to run at a particular time and it fails. So this is the agent operator. This job fails, then in any company you will see an email alert is needed, because if the agent doesn't get alert and he or she waits or he or she checks the status of the job every 30 minutes, so there can be a delay in getting the understanding if the job failed. So they want email alerts. So out of those options, these options are better in this sequence. So you will enable database mail. This is the database. You will enable the database mail because this database has to be integrated and talking to an email server first. So you will make sure that database mail is set. Then you enable email settings for SQL Server agent. So this is the agent. You enable the email settings here because this person has to send the email, right? So first you enable this here so that the database can talk to email servers. Then this guy has to do something with the emails, raise email alerts, and then next job will be to create a notification. Then you create a notification job. So here you tell if there is a failure, then this support group or this user dbadmin, whatever the email ID is, it will automatically send emails. So after you enable the settings, like you are giving it the pop server details, and then here you are creating a job notification, so that if there is a failure, you tell the job that if there is a failure, you send email to this email ID. It can be blah 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 at something.com, and usually we also put a body and a subject to that email. So in a nutshell, you first enable mail here so that it can talk to the email servers. Then you configure this, you make some settings here so that the agents can create a job notification. So you are doing some configuration here, and then you create a job notification so that this person gets an email. Now let's look at this question. Now here what's happening is you have to apply 20 built-in Azure policy definitions. Okay, so you have a set of definitions, policies, and you want to apply it to all new and existing database deployments in the Azure subscription. So there may be different databases. You want to apply these policies across to all. That means whatever resources are there, this policy will apply to all. The solution must minimize the administrative effort. That means some sort of automation has to be put into play. So how does it work now? So here if we see, we will scan the options after options. So to duplicate the Azure policy definitions, there is no need to duplicate it. You already have 20 built-in policy definitions. So if you duplicate it, so that means that you create copies of it and then apply across to different databases, but that will not work because duplication is not required here. The second one says run Azure policy remediation tasks. Yes, this can be done, but this is not the first step. This is not the first step, but this can be done. So we will park this. Third says create an Azure blueprint assignment. So what does a blueprint do is, if you have a blueprint of a bridge, like in the civil constructions, or a building, the blueprint will have whatever map of all the resources, the design, and etc. But here we are not worried about blueprints, because we want policy definitions to be applied across. So we will give this a skip for now. Create an Azure policy initiative. Yes, this is needed, because what initiative does is, initiative is just a group or aggregation of all the policy definitions. So you have to create a first policy initiative which will have all the policy definitions. So this is right, this is a first step. The second is create an Azure policy initiative assignment. Yeah, we will need this as well, the assignment as well, because once you create the policy, you will have to assign it to the resources. What can be the resources? It can be database deployment, it can be some other resources as well. This is needed. So the answer would be, first you create an Azure policy initiative, then you do the assignment, and then you run the policy remediation tasks, if any, so then you do that. So this is a sequence. So the policy initiative will be a group under which you will have all the policy definitions. Then you tell, okay, these initiative, you have to assign this initiative to the resources. So you will link that run these initiatives which has a group of policies on multiple resources. So since you have to minimize the administrative effort, this is the best way, because in one go it will run. And then if there are any remediations needed, you run the policy remediation tasks, so it will run in one go. So this way it will minimize a lot of administrative effort. Now let's look at this question. It's a bit complex in terms of reading this and understanding it. So first try to understand the story here. So basically this is what you have, 4 days, okay, and here it performs a weekly backup on Sunday. So weekly is performed on Sunday, and then you have differentials on Monday 1 AM, Tuesday 1 AM, and Wednesday 1 AM. So what happens is, Wednesday 10 AM there is a disaster. If you see here, it says Wednesday 10 AM. 10 means 10 AM, okay, because if there is no AM or PM written, that it means you have to follow the 24-hour clock. So the database fails at 10 AM. Now it is saying is which 3 data backups you should restore in sequence. So here at 10 AM it fails, so that means between 1 AM and 10 AM that differential you will have to take, because that is missing. And you see the logs are generated every 5 minutes, so you will have to take that as well. You see this transaction log backups every 5 minutes, so you will have to back that up also. You have to do that from a restore standpoint. But even before that, you will have to first do a full backup. You have to restore that full backup. So this is the answer. You first restore the full backup, you get the full database. Then Wednesday differential backup you have to take, because like I explained, between 1 AM and 10 AM, because the disaster struck at 10 AM, so between this you have to take the Wednesday differential and Wednesday log backups, because the log backups is happening every 5 minutes, so that you will have to take. So this is the answer. So let's look at this question. What it says is, you have an Azure SQL database DB3, and you need to provide a user named dev user with the ability to view the properties of DB3. So basically you have a user and you have a database, and you want this user to access the properties of the database. That's all, simple. And this has to be done from SSMS. That's all. So you have these. This is a question: which transact SQL command should you run? So show plan will not work here, because you are not trying to see the execution plan of the query. So that's why this is not needed here, because you want to view the properties of the database. Now view definition will also not work, because it will not give you all the features and properties of the database. Similarly, grant select to the dev user will also not work, because dev user will only give you So select access to the database, or you can do fire select on some of the tables inside that database. What you want to see is the properties, so you should put option C, the database state. You should grant view database state. So this one gives you information about all database objects inside the database, and that is what is desired here. So that's why C is the right option, and this is the answer we will go ahead with. This brings us to the end of this video. Please subscribe my channel and like my videos. To keep me motivated, if you can drop in some positive comments, if this is really helping you out, it will help. See you in the next part.